courage to live it. And that is like the big part right there, right, Amber? That having that darn courage to go and just do this thing, right? How are
Yeah,
you,
so
Amber?
much. I'm great. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
having me. And I love your intro. It's so
Well,
cool. I love the way you have that put together.
thank you. I appreciate that. So I love my audience. They're like super active and they're always like asking questions and whatever have you. So let's learn a little bit about Amber. Amber, tell us a little bit more about you.
Yeah, so I grew up in a super, super small town. Didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I can't ever remember having an answer to that question except successful. And so that's what I decided I was going to do, just be successful. And
That's
I went to
awesome.
school. I know, right? Like, what
So
could
good.
go wrong? Like, what do you want to be? Successful. Awesome. Got it. So I went to college. My dad passed away when I was 18.
Mm,
Went down some deep, dark holes that people go to when they don't want to deal with grief. Found law school, started working as an attorney, had a mental breakdown. And then I'm
mm,
sitting in a therapist's office and I said, all I've ever wanted to do is be successful. And I feel like such a failure.
mm.
And she said, Amber, you have a 6-figure income. You're the first person in your family to go to college. You have a law degree. You're um, respected in your profession. You support yourself. What does success mean to you? I said,
That's
I don't
deep.
know. Nobody's ever
Mm.
asked me that question. And I realized that I had spent my entire life chasing something I couldn't define,
Wow.
which is where the current version of me came from.
Wow, that's really super deep though, right? Because I think that, I'm a coach for women, right? And that's one of the things that I we come up against all the time because these are, COOs and presidents and all this other stuff that these women strive for, right? And yet they're sitting in front of me in a Zoom call because they don't know what the hell they want to do and they don't feel fulfilled, right?
Yeah.
So I totally get that. And it's funny, right? Because I was thinking in my head when you said, I just want to be successful. I'm like, that's a way to niche it down,
I
right?
know, right? And that's what I'm saying, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I go back and forth because one of my most frustrating things is the fact that we ask kids that question at all.
Mhm,
Like,
mhm,
why? Why are
mhm.
we asking somebody that if there's no way that they have the life experiences to know what they want to do when they grow up? I'm almost 40. I don't know what I want to do when I grow up,
Right.
right?
Yeah, me.
Like, how do we expect a 9-year-old to tell us?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
what is really interesting, though, that I've found as I've done my show and talked to people is that when you ask people what they wanted to be when they grew up, and then you find people who are living a purpose and a passion now, you can find qualities in
Yeah.
those two answers that go together. It
Mhm.
just doesn't always look the way we think it's going to look when we're 9.
It's so true. That is so freaking true. And that even happened in my life too. As a kid, I always said I wanted to be like Julia Childs. I wanted to be a chef, right? And then of course I became a medical assistant, ultrasound tech, like all this other stuff. And then but now I am an executive chef and a director of culinary operations, and it does look completely different. I'm more on the professional level than I thought I was going to be this chef cooking in front of a camera all the time, right?
Yeah.
But it's really neat that you decided to do that. Like, so what was that breaking point for you though when you were going when you became a lawyer, you said you were completely miserable. What happened there? What was it that got to you?
Oh, so you know how like you
You
can't
said there's nothing off the table. That's what
there
you
is
said.
nothing off the table. I'm going to go a little bit deeper in this answer than I normally go because I think that your audience will resonate with it. Um, I learned through the therapeutic stuff that I went through that came after the event that I'm going to tell you about to answer your question that I was entirely emotionally manipulative. And I had no
Mm,
idea.
mm,
I
mm.
had no idea. I did not understand that I was controlling the emotions of others because sometimes it felt like it was the only thing I could control in my life.
Right. Wow.
So
That's deep.
specifically what happened is I was in Northern Nevada for court, about 8 hours away. The individual that I was dating, who is still an amazing friend of mine to this day, the individual that I was dating and I got into an argument. And when I'm in my element and somebody doesn't want to talk to me or somebody doesn't respond the way that I would have wanted them to, in this version of me, I would give them no choice. I would show up on their
Mm,
doorstep. I would, use my emotions to get what I wanted from them, not realizing that's what I was doing. When
mm,
you're 8 hours away and somebody doesn't want to pick up the phone, you're left to your own devices. And it was really the first time in my life that I couldn't control somebody else because he wouldn't answer his phone no matter what I did.
right.
And I sat there completely lost. Panic attacks, anxiety attacks. I didn't eat for 4 days. I
Wow.
was there for court. Now, your female listeners will understand this because I had responsibilities. So I had to pull myself together to go to
Yeah.
court to represent somebody else. And that I was good at. But the moment that my responsibilities were taken care of and it was me that I was supposed to be taken care of, then shit hit the fan and I ended up in a
Mm,
corner hyperventilating. While I was up there, I called a therapist. And this was the first time I had reached out for help since my dad passed away. My dad passed away 15 years earlier in 2001. And I
wow.
remember when my dad passed away, I went to a doctor for an unrelated thing. And she found out that my dad had passed away and she tried to prescribe me depression medication in case I needed it.
Mhm.
And that coded something in my brain that all doctors were ever going to want to do is medicate me. So for 15 years, I refused to talk to anybody
Oh, wow.
until you just can't ignore it anymore
Yeah.
because
Mm.
you're biologically and psychologically and physiologically not able to function. And that's where I was in 2016. That was the breaking point.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a huge breaking point, right? But also a good one, right? Because you actually had to come to yourself. You had to come to it. You had to face her. You had to face this
Mhm.
girl, be like, "All right, Amber, well, what are we doing?" Right? But how did that, or why did that, do you think, affected the fact that got out of becoming a lawyer, or are you still practicing law?
I am still practicing law. I've
Oh, okay.
shifted my practice though. So here's the second half of it. So I started going to therapy. I also started obstacle course racing as a result of
Oh,
this because I needed something that didn't remind me of my life, something that every
completely
time I did,
different.
I didn't
Hmm.
think of this life I thought was going to be existing. And so
Mhm.
I found Tough Mudder. I started running obstacle course races. I started believing in myself. So I've got the physical component and the mental component that are pushing myself out of my comfort zone. And then I have this therapy component where I'm learning how to handle my emotions. And together that created the perfect storm for me to leave my law firm and open my own law firm
Oh,
in
nice.
2017. The problem was I had told myself my entire life I was never going to own a business.
Mhm.
I wanted to be a government employee, didn't want the responsibility of business ownership. So I had no idea how to do business stuff. So
Right.
I started searching for business seminars and I found an NLP based business. I didn't know what that meant at the time. But then I started getting trained in NLP. And through that process, I started loosening the identity of being an attorney had on me. And I had been blogging for a little bit because I felt like the anxiety, the depression, the trauma, like these are all things that we don't talk about in the legal field,
Right.
but we
Right.
take on the emotions of our clients. We take on the responsibility of their well-being and we internalize it. And then we're in this profession where you're not supposed to talk about things like that. So where do we release it at? So I
Right.
started sharing my story through blogs and conversations. And then I found podcasting. And then I was at this crossroads. And I remember a very specific conversation with, ironically, the same person that led to my breakdown in 2016, where I sent him a blog post about anxiety and depression and human feelings in the legal field. And he said, "This is amazing. You can't publish it." And I said,
Mm.
"What do you mean I can't publish it?" And he's like, "This will ruin your legal career. Nobody wants to hire an attorney that feels things like this. They want to
Right.
think their attorney is invincible."
Right.
And I struggled with that for a little bit. And I decided that like this was something I had to do. So I published it. I got a great response. The more that I started to step out of and
Mhm.
realize that I had intrinsic value
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
outside of whatever certifications were hanging on my wall,
Right. Right.
then the legal field didn't hold as much of a tight grasp on me. And I was able to say, yes, I work as an attorney and I also work as a coach and I also am a podcaster. Like these are
Right.
all things that are of me. But
Right.
until I could get to that point, because I thought all my value came from being an attorney, the idea of leaving that behind sent me in tailspins.
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing. That's really, really good work. And I'm proud of you too for
Thank
publishing
you.
that. I really am because it takes a lot. It takes a lot of
It
you,
does.
it takes a lot. And then you have to like kind of be a big girl about it too when it comes back. And if it wasn't a good response, if it was a bad response, right? Like when I wrote my autobiography, I knew I was going to get a lot of good from strangers, but
Hmm.
not so good from family, right? But
Yep.
sometimes it's worth the risk. You just gotta do it,
Well,
right?
and so many people go through that. What is my family going to think? And the reality is, like, family, and I'm really sorry to say this for anybody who's hearing it, please don't mute me. Family is the person you should be worried about the least
Yeah,
because they're
yeah,
always going to support you the least. And that's not
yeah. No,
intentional.
no, that's true. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
that who you are now and who they see you as is a huge part of who they believe they are. And
Right,
when you
right,
start to change, their identity gets challenged and they don't
right,
like it.
right,
So when we're saying, well, why won't you support me? Well, it's because they can't right now
right,
because they don't
right.
understand it. The real question should be, why are you begging for their support instead of looking at all of these strangers who
Mhm,
need your message?
mhm. Damn, that's good, girl. Go ahead. Go ahead with your bad self. And that's so good, and that's so true, and I always said, "Oh, yeah, your family will support you." After all the strangers have supported you. Just wait for
Yes.
all the strangers to support you, then they'll say, "Oh, yeah, that's my cousin, that's my sister, that's my whatever." Right?
Yeah, and I mean, there's a difference between love and support, right? Because I think our
Yeah, yeah,
family
yeah.
always loves us and they
Yeah,
always want us to be successful and they're always rooting for us for the most
yeah,
part.
yeah.
But to actually be supportive of what they're doing requires an understanding. I don't know what kind of music you listen to, but there's an amazing song by a girl called Ashley McBride. It's a country
Mhm,
song. It's
mhm.
called Girl Going Nowhere. And she wrote it about a high school teacher of hers who told her that she would never be a successful musician.
Wow.
And like that song just has so much of that. All of us at some point in time in our life are told that we won't be whatever we say we want to be.
100%. That is true. Yep, yep,
It's
yep.
crazy.
Yeah, but it makes it so damn good and so worth it when you do, right? Like when you do start hitting these pinnacles in your life. I'm not saying you ever arrive because I don't think we ever arrive.
No.
I think the journey is the arrival, but when you see yourself going from like struggle or poverty or whatever to six figures or whatever, you just go, damn, they told me I couldn't do this.
Yeah.
Now I'm going for the next thing.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. I love
It's
that.
this really fine line between wanting more
Mhm.
and being happy and grateful for what you have at the same time.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
knowing why you want more instead of just because serial accomplisher is in my bio for a reason. That's what
Right.
being an attorney was for me. It was just the next accomplishment that I thought was going to fix the 15 years of grief that I didn't deal with.
Right.
And so we have to understand why we want something. Why do you want the six-figure income? What do you think it's going to bring you?
Right.
What
Right.
Because if you think it's going to bring you freedom and respect and admiration, you're going to be a six-figure income earner with none of those things. Right? So we
Facts.
have to understand what
Yeah.
we think we're going to get from our goals.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's really, really good. So when you're working with your let's talk about your coaching. So when you're
Mhm.
working with your coaching clients, what is first of all, do you work with both men and women or just women? Like what's your coaching program like?
I work with both men and women. The
Okay.
majority of my clients are service-based professionals that are trying to get out of the life that they've built for themselves.
Okay.
But I think that that applies to anybody, right? We build this life with the resources that we know, and that
Mhm.
life might be a stay-at-home mom, it might be a professor or a teacher or an educator, or it might be a service-based professional. But at
Mhm.
some point in time, we start to look at what did we think this was going to bring for us, and why are we not happy when we have everything we said we wanted? And
Yeah.
those are the people I work with.
Oh, that's awesome. So, are you working mostly like NLP work or mindset work or helping them develop like their business plan? Like how are you doing? How are you navigating that?
So I'm a big believer that you can't coach one without the other. So I am not a life coach. I have zero desire to be involved in the drama and trauma that comes along with life.
Mhm.
However, I know that the drama and trauma that comes along with life dictates how successful your business is. So,
Right.
to the extent that we have to delve into those things, I will and I can.
Mhm.
What I want to do and where my passion is when I work with my clients is I give them a life wheel. I start with this life wheel, which I
Mhm.
have a free resource for anybody who's listening to this that I can give you at the end. I start with a life wheel where we find out what is really causing your lack of fulfillment,
Mhm.
because we all know that person who's been like, I'm not happy, it must be my job, so let me leave my job. And
Yeah.
then they leave their job and they're still not happy. Well, my job must not have been the problem. It must be my partner. So I'm going to go find a new one of those. And now you're single and jobless and you're still unhappy. So it must be where you live. So you're going to pick up everything and you're going to move to a new location, right?
Right.
The problem is that we're the common denominator in all of those things.
Yeah.
We just don't want to
Right.
see it, right?
Right.
So, what is it that's really making you unhappy? And what is it? This is where that courage comes in. What is it you don't want to say to yourself about how you really feel, about who you are and what you're
Mhm.
capable of?
Mhm.
So, I give them a life wheel. We find out where they're really at. I help them figure out what their definition of success is. And then I help them build a business that fits within that definition of success. And for some people, that's going back and working for somebody again. Some people say, I
Yeah.
don't want the
Yeah.
stress of being a business owner or an entrepreneur. I want to go work from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. I want to leave everything else behind and I want to go
Mhm.
spend time with my family. For
Mhm.
some people, it's being completely location independent, living in a van and figuring out how to make a business out of that. Whatever their definition of success is, we're going to do everything that we do from that point on with that definition in mind.
That's really great. That's really, really great. I love that you said that too, because I think that that's a big piece of where people get caught up too. I think there's a lot on, social media and everything else about everybody having their own thing or being social media influencers and all that. But you're right. Some people like I have my own stuff. I am an entrepreneur at heart, but I also do like having sometimes that steady schedule,
Mhm.
in my life. So you're right. And I love that you will help them be successful in developing whatever that is, that solution to that problem that they have. So that's fantastic that you do that with that. So that's your coaching program, and you do both men and women,
I
right? So
do.
that's fantastic. And do you do like one-on-one group coaching or just the one-on-one, or how do you run that?
So I have both. I have a group coaching program that we keep relatively small, between 8 to 12, 13 people in each pod. I think
Hmm.
when it gets any bigger than that, it becomes harder to get the
Yeah.
attention that you need. So I
Yeah.
would rather run multiple group coaching pods and keep
Hmm.
them small. I also do one-on-one coaching. I host live events as well. So I do one
Oh,
live
cool.
event per
Cool.
year. And then I have NLP certification programs where the NLP certification is so important, even for somebody who says, I never want to teach it, I never want to train it, because the more you learn about how your mind works, the more
Oh
that
yeah.
you can navigate with it.
Oh, isn't NLP amazing?
Oh my
Yeah, I
gosh,
did
it's
my
great.
my God, it's the best. I did NLP. I'm NLP Master Practitioner, and I love it. I can't believe how much I've learned. And through the courses, I've learned a lot about myself, was able to heal a lot of things that I was having problems with. So NLP is definitely, yeah, that's the game, I think. That's an amazing piece of our minds. Like it's amazing to, I'm almost 50. It to me, it's like I wish I would have known this when, in my
Mm.
20s and stuff, because I learned it now within my 40s and 50s, and it's an amazing thing what the mind can do, how you can reprogram. It's beautiful,
It
right?
is, and this is something that I struggle with because I speak to businesses and organizations. I do leadership training for organizations, and
Oh, good.
in speaking, I want to get into schools. Like I couldn't get into schools before because COVID was closed, right? So
Mhm, mhm.
now that they're opening back up, I really want to get into schools. And I was actually talking to Les Brown, and we
Oh,
were
cool, I
talking
like him.
about, he's great.
Yeah.
And I had asked him, I said, you have kids that you've raised that have become these fantastic humans. These things that you talk about, these concepts that you talk about, do you think that there's ever a too soon to have those conversations?
Mhm.
Because I know that if somebody would have come to me when I was in junior high and said, "Hey, Amber, you need to know what success means," I'd be like, success means not being in this room right now. Right.
Right, right.
Like, I don't,
Right, right.
I don't
That's true.
want, you know what I mean? So
Mhm,
there's a point in time where we're ready to listen.
mhm.
And so that's where we get to have that extreme patience with going and speaking to people that we know consciously are never going to pay attention to what we're saying,
Right.
and hope that unconsciously something latches on
Mhm.
that dictates the way that their unconscious mind sees the world.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I think everything comes when you need it,
Yeah.
right? And I think, the maturity level, it has a big piece to play in it for sure. In my 20s, I was trying to survive. I don't think I
Hmm.
would have even taken you seriously in my 20s, you know?
I wouldn't have
So
taken me
yeah.
seriously.
Right. So tell me a little bit about your podcast and, what you're doing there, what you're brewing up in your podcast.
Yeah, so my podcast is called More Than Corporate, and it has had a journey, man. It started as a passion project. I really had no intention of becoming a coach, of training NLP. I just wanted a place to share my story. And as an attorney, we write so damn much that I did not want to write anymore. So I'm like, somebody tells me
Right?
that I can do this and just talk into a microphone. And then I started networking with people who wanted to come on my show. And I started building these ridiculous relationships with people. And then people keep saying, how did you have this conversation? And how did you have this conversation? And how did you take back your life? And they started asking me these questions. And I thought, man, maybe I'm onto something. So
Right.
that's where the coaching came from. So we are at about 270 episodes, I think, of the
Nice.
podcast. We do 2 episodes a week, usually, one interview and one solo episode.
Mhm.
And honestly, it is, I'm 2.5 years in, and it's been such an amazing 2.5 years.
Oh, that's so cool. I know. Podcasting is so fun. If you're that type of person that loves to like connect with people and you love to have those important conversations, I agree with you. I started mine about 2.5 years as well. And it has been a wonderful experience. Like I wouldn't have been able to meet you otherwise, Amber. Like I'm not sure where in the world, a part of the world you live, but I've been meeting people from Australia and Africa and all these amazing places. And I'm just like, I wouldn't have been able to do that otherwise. So
No.
podcasting, love podcasting.
Yeah,
So
I
I'm
tell
glad you're
people all
doing
the
it.
time, I say, and this is going to sound derogatory, but it's not. I tell them podcasting has allowed me to have conversations with people that I have no business having conversations with people with.
Mm, mm.
Like, and I'm not saying I'm not worth those conversations. I'm just saying you call up Les Brown and say, let's have a conversation. And
Yeah,
like, it doesn't work that way.
yeah.
I've had Jordan Harbinger on my show. I've had Steve Sims
Oh,
on my
that's
show. Like,
awesome.
those people are not people that you just call up and say, hey, what's up? Like, let's shoot the
Yeah,
shit for a minute, right? You have to have a purpose. And then
yeah.
you learn so much from them. And then they see in you something that you don't see in yourself yet. And then all of a sudden you grow. It's such a beautiful thing. And, for anybody who's out there thinking about starting a podcast, the best advice I was given is to pick a time frame and commit to doing it.
Mhm.
And my time frame was 2 years. And I think that I would have quit about a year and a half in if I didn't have that commitment, because there is that lull where you're like, does
Yeah,
anybody listen to this?
yeah.
Like, is there any purpose? And then once one person will send you a message that says, hey, I saw this
Yeah.
episode. And you're like,
Yes,
okay, I'm good,
yes.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm really so excited because the tangibles, like the internal, has been exponential, but the tangibles are just starting to show up. And two and a
Mm,
half years in, this year, Next week, I'm speaking at Podfest, and I'm so excited.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Yay.
So
That's
it's
awesome. Good for you.
I'm so excited. And so the
Good.
speaking engagements, the coaching clients, the business that is now coming, I wouldn't have if had given up before that 2-year
Right.
mark. Like it takes time. It's a long
Oh, yeah.
term
It's a
game.
long game. Yeah, it's a long game. It's a long game. And you know what's really cool is that all of this happened because you had a little bit of a breakdown,
Mhm.
right? I mean, because you
The
were
shit
able
no
to
one wants to talk about, right?
yeah,
Like it's
exactly.
because we're willing to talk about the stuff that everybody feels and nobody wants to say.
Right, right. I mean, this is straight talk, so we talk about every freaking thing on here, right?
Yes, I
So,
love it.
thanks. I love the fact that you know, you found I really love first of all your journey, and I love the fact that you were able to understand that being a lawyer wasn't all there is to do because look at all of what you're experiencing now, right? That you did not have or even think was an opportunity then. And that's what I want my listeners to hear, right? Like, guys, just step out, just try something. Don't be afraid. And what are you afraid of anyway? You know, who cares about what people think, say? I don't. I happen to not care because it's just the way I am. You're a lawyer by trade, so I'm sure you really don't give a damn. You know what I'm saying?
So,
You gotta
there's
have
2
tough
different
skin, no?
answers to that,
Okay.
because, like, when I'm defending somebody else, I don't give a shit what anybody thinks about me while
Right,
I'm
right, right.
defending them. It took a lot for me to not care what people thought about me when I was
Oh,
defending me,
interesting.
right? When it's
Interesting.
somebody else, but when it's me, I'm like, "Huh, like, I don't know about all
Ah,
this." So, it
right.
took some time, and it
That's
was
good.
actually
Yeah.
Brené Brown's TED Talks that got me out of that. She has a quote that sits on my mirror. I live alone. I
Yeah.
write on my mirrors like a bachelor because that's apparently the type of person I am. And yeah, on my mirrors is a quote from Brene Brown that says, "If you're not also in the arena getting your
Oh
ass
my
kicked,
god,
I'm
I was
in
just
no
gonna
way
say that.
interested in your
Oh my
opinion."
gosh! I was gonna just
Yes.
say that. Tell me it's the
Yes.
arena quote. Tell me it's the arena quote.
Yes.
That is my favorite quote. I always
Yes.
I'm like, "Oh, you talking smack? Oh, did you step in this arena?" "Yeah, I don't think
Yes.
so."
Like, are you here?
So
No, you're not.
damn,
So I
Amber.
don't
I love
care what
that.
you say at
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
Um,
Awesome.
so I mean it's a balancing act between I don't care what you say and let me hear you and not take it to
Yeah,
heart because
yeah,
you're not somebody. The other way that I've heard it said, and this was in a meme, I feel like memes have a place in our culture right now.
yeah,
And
sure.
it said, "Don't ask for directions from somebody who's never been where you're going."
Mhm,
And
mhm.
that's kind of how I feel, right? You don't know where I'm going.
Right,
So why
right,
would I care what you have
right,
to say about it?
right,
Are you my potential client? Are
yeah,
you a potential mentor? Do I respect
right,
your opinion?
right,
And
right,
you notice like family was not on those 3.
right,
I love my family, but if I listened to them, I would still
right,
be working for $10 an hour at a Burger King.
right. No, it's
Because you know
facts.
what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it is
that's
what it
facts.
is.
Yeah,
So,
and I always think about something too, like when somebody says something, well, most times I laugh when people just say mean things. I don't know, I just laugh. I'm cynical that way. But when somebody says something that pinches me, I go, okay, Nina, I think we have something to deal with here because why did that bother you? You know,
wha
so we're gonna have to
yep.
handle that. Guys, start do some NLP techniques on yourself.
Yes. What
Right.
about this is about me is the hardest question to
Mhm,
answer, but
mhm,
it's so true. Every time somebody pisses me off, I'm like, what about and the more that you hang out with people who know this, the more that
mhm.
your circle becomes people who understand why we get triggered.
Right,
I'll look at them and I can see it on their face that they're about to ask me the question. And I'm like, I know why it triggers me. I'm not ready to deal with it.
right.
Don't say the words. Like,
So good.
don't the zip, duct
Yeah.
tape,
Right,
nothing.
right, right. Exactly. You don't always have to say something, right? It's
I
so
know what you're gonna
funny.
say. I'm not ready.
Ah, I really, really so love this conversation, Amber. I mean, I don't want to take you up all night because I think we could talk all day.
Oh,
So
I
we
agree.
so before I let you go though, I love your energy and I love who you are and what you stand for. So I have to tell my audience how to reach you, follow you, support you, all that great stuff. So drop all that knowledge for us.
Thank you so much. So you can go to successdevelopmentsolutions.com, which is my website. If you go /straight talk, there's a free gift for you guys there. It's a life wheel as well as a goal planner to help you figure out what you want your next quarter to look like. You can also follow me on social. I'm most active on Facebook. And those are the best ways to get a hold of me.
Awesome sauce. I'm going to make sure to link all of that. Thank you. You're so amazing. I love
Thank
you.
you for having me.
Love
This
your
was great.
energy. I am definitely, in fact, I have it open on one of my tabs. So I am definitely going on to your podcast to subscribe because I was
Thank
just
you.
listening to the one with Daniel. I love the way you do your, interviews. You're just like free flowing and you guys talk about really great conversation. And I'm really, really excited about where you're going, Amber. So kudos. That's
Thank you. I appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun having you. Guys, I'm going to make sure to link everything below for her, for you guys to go ahead and reach out to her. Make sure that you go and look for that life wheel. I'm going to put that information below as well. I mean, it's a free gift from her to you. So go ahead and take advantage of that. Those things bring value. So make sure that you guys follow her, support her, do all of that amazing stuff. And if you want to work with her, I'll make sure to link that as well. Thank you guys so much for being here. This is Neena Perez, Straight Talk, no sugar added. Until next time.
Broadcast is brought to you by Winject Studios. We are an all-in-one educational platform for podcasters that revolutionizes how hosts leverage content to increase engagement with listeners, downloads, and income. We come together to focus on community, collaboration, and collective impact. For more information on how you can interact directly with our hosts, access exclusive live content with offers you can't get anywhere else from our official partners, join our purpose-driven community by visiting www.winject.com. If you're ready to build a career doing what you love, then we're ready to see you there.